At the conclusion of the Royal Rumble 2023 last night, we got one of the most emotionally driven storylines and story arcs that we've had in WWE in probably the last decade. The story between Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, which consists of Roman Reigns, Jimmy and Jey Uso, and now Solo Sikoa, has been an ongoing story development for the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months. And it's something that fans were just eagerly anticipating, the point to where Sami Zayn would either turn on Roman Reigns and the rest of the Bloodline, or Roman Reigns and the rest of the Bloodline would completely turn on Sami Zayn because of his potential allegiance with former teammate and rival in Kevin Owens. Back in Ring of Honor, Kevin Steen and El Generico had some of the greatest matches in the history of independent wrestling. In the WWE and in their time in NXT, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, which were their names inside World Wrestling Entertainment, put on some of the best matches and most emotionally driven matches that we've seen in a very long time. And even on the main roster, such as at Payback 2016, we got to see their rivalry continue. And every time they stepped into the ring, it had one thing that most storylines in WWE and in the modern era have lacked, and that was emotion. But when we look at the Bloodline, Roman Reigns turning heel, the indoctrination of the Usos alongside him, and the newly included and newly inducted member into the Bloodline in Solo Sikoa, the storyline and Roman Reigns' work over the past 3 years has been nothing short of incredible. The man has worked so incredibly hard as a heel inside the WWE, and it makes us wonder why he wasn't turned heel earlier than at Payback in 2020. But I guess we're going off on a little bit of a tangent, so let's wrap it back around to what we came here to talk about. At the Royal Rumble 2023, Roman Reigns defended his championship for another record-setting title defense against Kevin Owens. Now, we talked about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's relationship and former alliance or allegiance inside the professional wrestling business. But after the trial of Sami Zayn on Monday Night Raw, the one person came to the defense of Zayn that nobody thought ever would. And that was Jey Uso. Throughout the entirety of Zayn's inclusion in the Bloodline, the one person who never believed his true loyalty and allegiance to the tribal chief and the family was Jey. He always felt as if he was only in the Bloodline to get information and get intel to eventually turn on them and align himself back with Kevin Owens, who has been the target of the Bloodline since the start of the storyline. Even going as far as to have Sami Zayn low blow Kevin Owens inside War Games and cost their team the victory and give the Bloodline the ability to reign supreme. So after Roman Reigns' successful title defense at the Royal Rumble, an Attitude Era-esque beatdown would ensue as every member of the Bloodline beat the living pulp out of Kevin Owens, to the point where he was literally defenseless. And even at that point, as Sami Zayn looked on in concern and terror, the attack didn't stop. A bunch of chair shots, unanswered super kicks to the face from the Usos, a Samoan spike from Solo Sikoa, and an inclusion of a hip attack in the corner with the head of Kevin Owens stuck in between a chair wouldn't end the attack by any means. Sami Zayn was concerned for a former friend, but he was also in the position where he had to show that he was truly aligned with the Bloodline and was truly a member of the family, not wrestling's only royal family. So as Kevin Owens was handcuffed to the ropes in a sacrificial lamb style of position, ready for any attack that came from any member of the Bloodline, Roman Reigns would grab the chair and look to smash Kevin Owens in the head one more time. However, he would pass the chair off to Sami Zayn and give him the opportunity to show that he was truly a member of the Bloodline and that Kevin Owens meant nothing compared to his new family of Reigns, the Usos, and Sikoa, and the inclusion of the greatest mouthpiece, or one of the greatest mouthpieces in professional wrestling, in Paul E. Heyman. As Zayn would get control of the chair, it looked as if he was going to smash his former friend in the head as a rite of passage, so to speak. However, as Roman Reigns would turn his back, Sami Zayn would do what everybody thought he wanted to do this entire time. By smashing Roman Reigns in the back with the steel chair and knocking down the tribal chief a few pegs, not only in terms of physical condition, but in terms of his ginormous ego as well. Jimmy would look on with killer instinct along with Solo Sikoa, but Jey would look on in horror and scream at Sami as to why he would do that after he even came to the defense of Sami during his trial on Monday Night Raw. He looked as if he didn't know what to do, and Jey was in an emotional and mental state that any human in his position would be in, given the circumstances. Screaming in disappointment and rage at Zayn as to why he did what he did and why he had to do that after Jey came to his defenses on Monday Night Raw. The attack would then ensue on Sami Zayn from Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa. So it wasn't only Kevin who was laid out, but now the former member of the family in Sami Zayn was feeling the wrath as well. But the one man who didn't want to be included in the beatdown of Sami Zayn, or the beatdown of initiation and the brotherhood style beatdown, I guess you could say, was Jey Uso. And people sat there and wondered why. Was it the fact that Jey had felt sympathy after coming to his defenses on Monday Night Raw? Was it the fact that it was just too much pressure physically and emotionally that he just didn't want to partake in it anymore, whether it was Sami or Kevin Owens who was getting beat down? Or was it something completely different? I feel like it's option C, and I'll tell you why. If we go back prior to the formation of the Bloodline, Jey Uso and Roman Reigns had a series of matches that was some of the best work in ring that the WWE had seen throughout the entire pandemic era in 2020. Whether it was their first match at Clash of the Champions or their second match at Hell in a Cell, it was some of the best in-ring work in WWE and some of the best and most well put together pro wrestling matches that we had seen in the business in a long time. Reigns would come out as the victor in both matches, continuing his championship reign, but it was much, much more than that, because after the second victory where Roman defended his championship against Jey inside the Hell in a Cell, we saw just how emotionally and mentally manipulative the tribal chief could be. Reigns would force Jey to say "I quit," but not due to the damage he was inflicting on him. It was due to the damage he was inflicting on his brother, and Jimmy Uso, putting him in the guillotine and choking him unconscious until Jey had no choice but to either continue to let Roman beat down on Jimmy or to sacrifice his manhood and integrity to save a brother. And that's exactly what he did, by saying "I quit" just to save Jimmy in the process. By losing this match to Roman and giving him another successful title defense, it would make Jey now a servant of the tribal chief, where he had to do exactly what he said and when he said it, for as long as Roman Reigns felt the need to entertain it. It wouldn't be long before Jimmy would join Jey, and that would be the first actual formation of the Bloodline faction inside the WWE, with Paul E. Heyman, Jimmy and Jey Uso, and the head of the table in Roman Reigns running havoc and wrecking havoc all over WWE, whether it was Friday Night SmackDown or Monday Night Raw. This formation of the Bloodline would eventually cause Jey to be so emotionally and mentally manipulated that he would really go on to cheer on Roman and become a true brother of his cousin inside the WWE. But is it really what Jey wanted, or was he just too emotionally damaged at this point to realize that he was being used the entire time? Now, Jimmy is still alongside Roman Reigns, so we can't really include him in this story, but that's fine because the video's about Jey. Most people think that this is going to lead to Sami Zayn being the one to defeat the tribal chief and win the championship off of him, whether it's at Elimination Chamber or the grandest stage of them all at WrestleMania. But after Cody Rhodes won the 2023 Royal Rumble, I feel like we're going down a little bit of a different direction, and this is going to lead to not the championship coronation of Zayn, but the championship coronation of Jey Uso. Sami Zayn was in the same position that Jey was in the pandemic and COVID era, being used by Reigns, talked down to, and being constantly reminded that he had to show his allegiance to the family. Is that not what we're getting right now with Sami Zayn, just in a little bit different of an aspect? It's almost exactly the same. And I feel like that's why Jey was so emotionally damaged and so emotional after the Royal Rumble 2023 beatdown of Sami and Kevin Owens, because he felt as if Sami was now in the same position that Jey had been in, and maybe the emotionally manipulative tactics that Reigns used on him for the entire formation of this faction in the Bloodline were finally starting to wear off, and Jey was finally seeing the true colors of his tribal chief and cousin in Roman Reigns. They always say that they have the Uso penitentiary. Well, Jey was locked in his own penitentiary, and the warden was Roman Reigns. And that's something that people need to realize, and that's why I feel like this storyline is going to lead to the main event Jey Uso that we wanted to happen in 2020 and the beginning of 2021. Sami Zayn, yes, could face Roman Reigns and could be the one to defeat him for the title. He could completely break away from the Bloodline, and Sami and Kevin Owens could defeat the Usos for the tag team titles. But the tag team championships aren't what this story's about, at least in my opinion. And I could completely be off because this is professional wrestling and this is the WWE. I guess what I'm trying to say is that at the end of this entire Sami Zayn, Bloodline, Kevin Owens storyline, I feel like we might get a crowning moment for Sami, but the real crowning moment is going to be Jey Uso becoming his own person and really living up to be main event Jey Uso. And I feel like he should be the one to defeat Roman Reigns for one of his titles. It might be Cody Rhodes who gets the first pinfall victory on Roman after winning the Royal Rumble and faces him at WrestleMania, but I feel like the titles are going to be broken up and Cody is going to compete for the vacant WWE title against an opponent the likes of maybe Seth Rollins. And if that's the case, then they could do Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso for the championship and to see who's really the true resemblance of the family and the Anoa'i family in the WWE after Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And you could even have Dwayne maybe be a special guest referee, because it feels as if it doesn't have to be The Rock versus Roman like everybody said. Because like this entire video is about, this storyline that's going on right now is partially about Sami Zayn. But in the full picture, it's about Jey Uso becoming exactly who he needs to be, becoming his own man again, and breaking away from the prison and the mental abuse and the mental manipulation that Roman Reigns has put on him since the beginning of this faction came to the light.